It's the Cindy Adams Show, 77 WABC.
Joseph Abboud, you have been dressing men for decades. How did it start? Where were you born?
Yes, Cindy, I was born in the south end of Boston, Massachusetts, in a working class community. And I always thought when I was a little kid, I used to go watch old films with Errol Flynn and Gary Cooper and all those Hollywood icons. And I fell in love with their style, that Hollywood style. And I always thought, Cindy, that dressing well opened doors. And so that's where my love of it came from, actually from movies, from the old movies. And I grew up in the 50s and 60s in Boston, and then I went to work for Ralph Lauren in 1980, and I moved from Boston to New York. So that was a big step in my career.
Well, we all know your name. We know how great you are. We know all of that. What we don't know is what the hell has happened to styles. What has happened to men? Tell me what you think of men wearing shorts into an office.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God. You know, Cindy, I think this is my greatest pet peeve is COVID slammed the door shut on men's style. That whole period where men would stay home in their pajamas and do work really killed men's fashion. And we haven't recovered from that. You're right. People don't dress to go to the theater anymore. They don't dress to go to the office. It's very rare that you see a man in a jacket, or very rarely in a man with a suit and a tie. And it seems lost, but there is hope, Cindy. I think younger generations of guys are kind of hungering for that style, something that you've known about New York. New York was the style capital of America. And, you know, people dressed on Madison Avenue and went to 21, and there was a certain glamour and style. But unfortunately, especially in New York, that has disappeared.
I just don't understand what you're saying, that it's going to come back. Nothing is coming back in the United States. It is just dreadful. You go to theater, they're wearing T-shirts. They're schlepping something, a brown paper bag on their shoulders.
That's right.
What is happening
That's right.
to anything that we believe in? Why aren't people like you screaming and shouting?
Well, I have been, and that's been my whole crusade, is to dress men and get them to understand that dressing appropriately is crucially important. The younger generation, you know, Cindy, we grew up knowing great fashion magazines where young men would get their style, GQ, Esquire. We couldn't wait for the September issue with all of the fall fashion. And it seems that there's so much distraction with the internet and social media and people are not meeting face to face. You know, I always say, I give advice to young men, you know, you need a navy blazer, you need a gray suit, because you may have to go to a wedding or a funeral, or you may have to meet your girlfriend's parents. You need to have the appropriate wardrobe. And I've been screaming about that, and you know, that's my crusade, and I continue that crusade.
Okay, your crusade, I understand. I also understand that it's a losing battle for all of us. Penmanship is a losing battle. People learning arithmetic is a losing battle. Being gracious is a losing battle. I think this is also. I went out the other day. I went to theater, and I saw them in their T-shirts, and I saw people walking on the street in shorts, and ladies with their things hanging out. What the hell is happening to us? Tell me, save me, because I think I want to kill myself. It's awful.
No, Cindy, we need your voice. Your voice is so powerful, and I mean this sincerely. I've been such a for so many years, and you stand for so many important things and important subjects. But let me address something, Cindy. It used to be in New York City that you would go out to dinner, and you would take a stroll after dinner, and you'd walk up to see the windows at Saks Fifth Avenue or Bergdorf Goodman or Barney's, and you would look at, you know, style, and you would be dressed appropriately, and you felt comfortable. New York has deteriorated because of what's been going on politically in the city.
Well, New York has deteriorated in every way. with this little mouse that is running this city at the moment. So, I mean, I would go through 2 hours now of peeing on him if I could. But right now, I want to talk to you. It's dreadful. The city itself is dreadful.
Yes.
But it's not just. It's not just that. I see men in earrings. I see men in necklaces. I see men in bracelets. Isn't somebody doing anything? People like you, who we all look to?
Yes. Well, Cindy, as I said, that's a battle that I fight all the time through my Instagram page, talking about American men's style. Cindy, when I launched my collection in 1987, I wanted to make American men more international. I wanted to dress them. I didn't want them to be stepchildren to our European counterparts. I wanted them to have a style all of their own. And through the 90s and the 2000s, I was able to get men to dress again. But I will tell you that COVID was disastrous on so many levels for young men understanding what would be appropriate. You know, I can only do so much. My goal always is to continue that battle. But I've tried to have the fashion business look at it. But, Cindy, there's something else. You grew up and you knew the Bill Blasses, Oscar de la Renta.
Yeah.
Ralph Lauren, probably the greatest icon in American fashion.
Yeah.
They stood for dressing well, for beautiful fashion. That really interprets who we are. It was an expression of who we are. Those were the giants of our industry. Giorgio Armani, who passed away, Karl Lagerfeld. And I had the privilege of knowing so many of these great people. Again, working with Ralph Lauren for 5 years as one of his design directors was so influential. My point is we've got to get people like you, and I'm so glad you're doing this, Cindy, to get that message out. It's not easy, but I do think there's hope, and I'll tell you why. There's a genetic memory in young men to say, you know what, I think I need a suit. I've got to go to a wedding. Oh, guess what? I have a job interview. Oh, I'm getting married. I need a tuxedo. I will tell you a very sweet story if you have a moment. So I was contacted by, I was privileged to be contacted by a young man with Down syndrome who was marrying a young woman with Down syndrome. And it is one of the most inspiring stories. And they asked me if I would help style their wedding. Well, I would have paid to do that because it was one of the greatest privileges of my life. And this young man who was so well-versed and well-spoken wanted to make sure that he was appropriately dressed for his wedding and his groomsmen. And the bride, and we talked about it, and we had a number of sessions. And I always open myself up to saying, anyone who needs fashion advice, young people, I am there for them. Because I think it's really my calling, my job, to help young people understand. And I was so happy to see the way the suit fit him and how much joy it brought him to being well-dressed. Now, the wedding was in September, and we had it custom tailored. And so those are the kinds of things that I try to do. It's like being Johnny Appleseed. Now, whether the seeds take or not, I can only do what I can do. But I hear everything you're saying and couldn't agree more. And I will say this to you, Cindy. We need to figure out what to do in New York City. It is an embarrassment. The shops, half of them are closed. There are people sleeping in the hallways. You don't want to go out at night and walk around and look at the windows because you're afraid for your safety. I mean, New York City should be ashamed of itself for what it's doing. And we say it's the greatest city in the world, and it's where I built my career, but it has a lot of work to do if it's ever going to even be close to that.
Everything you say, I agree with. I just don't know where we are going. I don't know where our country is going. I don't know where our city is going. I don't know where our stupid-ass mayor is going. I just don't know where anything is going. I think maybe I'm just living too long. Tell me, what are you doing with your old suits? Do you wear them? Do you wear them even though you don't feel comfortable in them?
Well, that's such a great question. Let me tell you, Cindy, I believe in repurposing great things. So in the last couple of years, I've been going back into my archives and picking out pieces that I designed that I loved, say, 20 years ago. I will style it differently now. I will maybe take that suit jacket and wear it with a cargo pant and a turtleneck, a cashmere turtleneck. So it might not be the way I wore it 20 years ago, But if it's great quality, and I always said, Cindy, buy less but buy better, buy quality. Our European counterparts do that very, very well, especially the European women. They know how to tie a scarf or to wear a jacket they've had for 10 years. It's not about disposable fashion. And so I love my archival pieces because a lot of them were made in America. I'm so proud of that I made more than 5 million suits, maybe 7 million suits here in the United States that were sold under the Joseph Abboud label. And I'm so proud of that, the factory in Massachusetts. And so I try to do my part as one crusader, as I try to do it. But your voice, you can be so helpful, Cindy, and doing this segment is very helpful for the listeners.
Did you yourself ever screw up a design?
Cindy, you're hitting on all the right points. One of my design philosophies is this. I never want to see a design that I've made and be embarrassed by it. Meaning, I've always had more respect for the customer than for the press, for the fashion press. So my goal in designing was always to make American men and women, when I did my women's collections, look and feel better about themselves. Because I never want a man's suit to walk into the room before he does. And what I mean by that is, you know all these great Hollywood icons that are wonderful images. When you saw them, it wasn't the suit they were wearing. It was their whole aura, their whole image. So men should be the leading actor, and clothes should be the supporting stars. And that's always been my philosophy of not making a mistake and making sure I honor my customer, because that's how I was successful. Not because of the celebrity or hoping to get some kind of publicity, but because I wanted to do my job well. And I wanted to really honor American men and make them strong counterparts to their European, men who just dress well. I went to school. I was lucky enough to get a scholarship to go to the Sorbonne when I was 19 years old. I was in Boston, got a full scholarship to go to Paris for a year. And I think, Cindy, that was when my eyes really were open. I would watch the Cafe Society, see men and women dressed beautifully, in the cafes at night. And one day the metro opened up, and a man in the subway, their metro system, and a man in a tuxedo and a woman in a gown got on the subway. And I said to myself, I don't know what world this is, but it's a world I want to live in. So style has always been an important part of a reflection of who we are. And I know you know that because you know my friend Norma Kamali, who has done incredible work over the years. She's one of the most talented designers I know. Ralph Lauren, as I said, the true legend, the father of American fashion, in my opinion. So
what should we do now when we're going out and we have no money? We have no money for tomatoes or lousy lettuce. We have no money. We're supposed to pay the Joseph Abboud money for a suit. They don't have it.
Cindy, I think I always tried very hard to have what I call a price-value proposition. I do not believe in paying for designer labels if there's no value there. And I'm in the designer world. But when someone will have a bikini for $800, I say to myself, how can a bikini that's made of a quarter of a yard of fabric be $800? Or how can a handbag be $25,000? How can that be? To me, I think that is taking advantage of the consumer. So I tried hard to keep our prices fair and have the price-value proposition. And I will say this about what you just mentioned. I would say to a young man, you don't need 5 or 6 suits. Buy one nice suit. It's more economical. Buy one nice blazer and a few great white shirts and a pair of gray flannel trousers. So you have it. You don't have to have 10, but buy better and buy less often.
So did you yourself, a high-class designer like you, ever F up something?
Well, I will tell you, there is no straight line to success, and I think I know my place in the universe. I did one thing that I was happy to do, but it didn't get good press, and you may call it a mess up if you want to hear about that. I'll tell you. So I designed a GMC Sierra, a car for General Motors, for something called Concept Cure. You may remember Concept Cure, but it was designers coming out and designing cars to raise money for breast cancer. And this is what I'm really proud of. The vehicle that I designed raised the most money at auction. So I wanted to do something. So I actually had that vehicle come out on the runway. Now, in hindsight, I shouldn't have done that. But let me tell you what happened. I got reviews like, well, what is this? The price is right. So the press didn't get the message, Cindy. I wanted to show my support, our support for breast cancer. And the fact that we raised over $250,000 for that one vehicle. It was a one-of-a-kind with shearling seats, and it was really a beautiful piece. There was a stone from Nantucket in the dashboard. It was really beautiful. But I didn't get good reviews, and it's because the press was too shallow at that time to really get the message. But I made the mistake of doing that. That's only one of my mistakes. So, but it was well-intentioned, if you know what I mean.
So tell me, in the future, we're going to have kids.
Mm-hmm.
What is going to happen to department stores? What is going to happen to our bare asses when we go outside? What is going to happen to us? Tell me.
Wow. Well, Cindy, I don't know if you did a lot of research on my book or what I did, but you're asking all the right questions. When I launched my collection in 1987, there were 100-plus great department stores in America. If you look at fast forward 25 years, okay, they're almost 30 years, there are probably 4 or 5 department stores left. Now, we've lost that. I mean, people are shopping. I understand they're on the internet, they're shopping on the web, but it's still not the same experience. So my advice to great retailers is, if you want people to come into your stores, it's all about storytelling. You have to create an environment to draw people in. You can't just price it out that, sale 60% off, 70% off. You have to inspire people to get dressed and show them how to do it intelligently. And I have to tell you, for me, from the very beginning of my career, I believe that once you get them inside, bring them into your environment, welcome them in, let them take their time, and that's the future, because it's not going to be just about price, and there are very few department stores left. It's unfortunate.
Well, listen, it all sounds so easy with you. I'm just so aggravated. I'm just awfully aggravated. Tell me if you had a lousy person that you ever dressed and who wasn't very nice and wanted to take his drawers off or whatever the hell it is. Didn't you ever have a pain in the ass?
Well, I did have a bunch of pain in the asses. I remember. So in 1988, I was the first designer to work with Bryant Gumbel in NBC, and I did his entire wardrobe. I did his entire wardrobe, and we got great reviews. And so for those years after, I did the Olympics with NBC and CBS. And occasionally there were those who, most of them were very appreciative, like a Jim Nance, who does a great job with his golf and, such a great friend. So many people. Bob Costas, for example, was a gentleman and a class act. But occasionally we would run across someone who wasn't really quite with their stature and who just complained about everything. And all I wanted to do was make their lives happy. So to me, I could only do what I was doing. But I will tell you that doing the Olympics gave us a lot of visibility, because I was a relatively new brand in 1988. And dressing personalities has never been my goal. I want to dress the American man. And if some personalities happen to like it, well, then I'm thrilled.
Yeah, well, what about when they're wearing long hair and they're wearing skirts occasionally, your clientele, and they're wearing bracelets, earrings, and tattoos up the behind? You don't have a problem with any of that that's happening today? I do.
I do. I have more of a problem with it than you do, Cindy, because it's been my work and my life's goal since I went to work in college at a men's store. So I had written an article for Women's Wear Daily, which said, "When did the skinny suit get too skinny?" That was the title of the article. So we saw in the last 10 years, men wearing skin-tight suits that their arms were busting out of it. They looked like their bar mitzvah suit, okay? And I was fighting about good style. And I also said you could read their credit card numbers on their credit card because the suits were so tight. And then for a while, there's some designers pushing dresses and shorts for men. It really is an insult to the American man. I don't care what anybody says. I know it might be a fashion rage. People might get a kick out of it. To me, it's an embarrassment and an insult to the American consumer. I think men should dress like men and women should dress like women.
Okay, and before they cut off my career here, which they're about to do,
yes,
and have been about to do it for about several years, I have to say goodbye because I've been on for 20 minutes with Joseph Abboud, who I think is wonderful, and I can't wait to wear one of your men's suits, honey. Thank you.
Cindy, I love you, and I love your show, and you are the best.
Thank you, sweetheart. Thank you, honey. Bye.
Okay. All right. Bye-bye.